Vanessa, you've been listening. Were you nodding or rolling your eyes?
Well, I think there were some very interesting ideas being raised there. I mean, I think the question of fairness is a really crucial one, right? We live in a time of extreme wealth inequality, and that means inequality of power. If we care about being a democracy in which citizens get to participate on something like an equal basis, it's pretty hard to do that when some people can self-fund a presidential campaign and other people can't afford insulin.
How about you, Mr. Cato? What do you think?
I think the idea that rich people are undertaxed is ridiculous. The top 1% pay 39% of all federal income taxes now. That share has been increasing over time. In fact, it's double the share they paid back in the 1980s. So think about wealth. What is wealth? The synonym is savings. We want rich people to save. They don't stick their money in their mattress. What they do is there's a giant pool of savings that they go out and they fund venture capital and angel investment. Think about Silicon Valley. It's one wave of innovation creates rich people. The rich people turn around. They reinvest in new growth companies. It's a great perpetual motion machine that benefits all of us. The wealth of wealthy people is savings that the whole economy needs in order to grow and to innovate.
Chris, can you explain to the audience, though, why you believe, or not why you believe, but why it is, just factually, that the number that you just referenced in terms of the wealthy paying more and more of the taxes, why is that?
Well, there's two reasons. One, it is true that the share of income going to the top group has increased over time, but it's also true that we have a very progressive or graduated tax code. So if you look at average tax rates, for example, the overall taxes you pay divided by your income, the top 1% in the United States has a 27% tax rate. Everyone else, the other 99%, pays 11%. So the top group pays 27%, everyone else 11%. So we're already nailing these folks at the top really heavily. And there's no way we can go back to those rates in the mid-20th century that some people are talking about because of globalization. There's just too much avoidance and evasion these days.
Am I being made a fool of? If I'm paying 55%, and let's just say I'm part of the 1%. If I'm paying 55%, and there are others that are part of the 0.01% that are paying significantly less, does that make any sense to you?
Well, it partly does because some people at the very, very top pay capital, have a lot of their income and capital gains tax. If you look at IRS data on the top 400, a lot of those people are actually, it's one-time events. They have a family business that has appreciated in value over time. They sell it. They spike to the top. The income tax rolls, and capital gains taxes are a little lower than the ordinary income tax. So that is going on in the data. But that's reasonable, and that's fine. We don't want high capital gains taxes.
Do you believe in the carried interest? Do you believe in the carried interest? I'd call it a loophole. You can call it what you will.
No, I don't really care about that one way or the other. I will tell you one loophole I would go after is a tax exemption on municipal bonds. That's the biggest loophole that wealthy people use that is not talked about. I think that loophole is very distortionary, and I would get rid of it. And that should be something that conservatives and liberals could compromise on.
Vanessa, just kind of a liberal lion, Howard Schultz, happens to be a billionaire, and he talks. We haven't heard from him ever since Michael Moore said he was going to start boycotting Starbucks. I don't know, poor Howard. I end up now. I think he makes a lot of sense, but he calls it revenge politics and just identity politics, attacking billionaires. When Howard Schultz starts making sense to me, I mean, where are we on this? Should we be bashing people that have been successful? Howard Schultz came from absolutely nothing to change the world and create something that I think we all enjoy, and created all this shareholder wealth. He gives health care and benefits to all of his employees. Is he a bad guy?
Well, I don't think this is about whether someone's a bad person, but Howard Schultz didn't come from nothing. He came from public projects. So he benefited from tax dollars when he was a kid, and so I think it's really valuable that he should be able to pay that back. But the more important question, it's not about the people, it's about the money. When you have that much money, you automatically distort our democracy. And it's not about whether you have goodwill or ill will or the policies you want to propose. The point is he has a platform that's just vastly larger than other citizens, and that's not how democracy should work.
In a meritocracy, how do you... what are you proposing that we do to hamper people from being successful and accruing that wealth? Isn't that just a consequence of having a system that allows you to excel? And what is your What's your answer? Do we all want to meet at the bottom and have we all make $60,000 a year and there are no billionaires, or would you rather create more millionaires?
I think that it's a mistake to confuse success with extreme wealth. There are many successful Americans, there are very few billionaires. But more generally, it's not really fair to discuss America as a meritocracy. If you look at the racial wealth gap, a median white family has 86 times the wealth of a median black family. And if you're going to tell me that can happen in a meritocracy, I'd really like to hear you explain it. The point is the economy hasn't been fair for people in a really long time, and if ever. And I think that we need to do more to make sure that the people at the very top can't distort our political process, which guides our economy,
Vanessa,
and make things even less fair in the future.
What if in our efforts to somehow have the government redistribute what you're talking about, what if that ends up hurting the people it's intended to help? What if, where GDP's at 3% now, what if we do redistribution and just the unintended consequence is slower growth and the people you're intending to help don't get anywhere?
Well, I think there's a lot of evidence that there are government programs that can work really well. Social Security vastly reduced poverty among the elderly.
Right.
Old people used to be among the poorest Americans, and that's simply not the case anymore because we had a program that worked. We can build on those kinds of programs. Okay. More generally, I think that the idea that we should give up hope, for instance, it's technically difficult to tax the rich. You were discussing that at the beginning. You're absolutely right. The implementation is a challenge. But the idea that Americans should give up on challenges before even starting, when our democry is at stake, I think doesn't make sense.
It seems like so many good things flow from. I mean, you wouldn't dispute that the rise of the standard of living of everyone in this world has benefited from capitalism and Adam Smith, or however you want to look at it. Chris, you want to have we got 30 seconds.
Yeah, look, the people at the top end of the spectrum are generally the most productive people in the economy. Entrepreneurs that are creating all these new companies. There is not a fixed pie of wealth. The people at the top end create new companies. They create thousands of jobs. There's no point penalizing them. We already penalize them very hard. We're not going to go back to high tax rates. Globalization makes that impossible. It would just create more avoidance and evasion, and that makes no sense.